Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, and we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friend Preston Poulter, who is from PocketJackComics.com. And if you actually go to his website and sign up for his email list, you could actually get a free PDF of all of his comics, their first issue. And for those who buy something from me on eBay, Preston was gracious enough to send me about 50 of these, and they will be included every single order. So you could get some White Lily, a free comic, and who doesn't like free comics? So go check that out. But enough about his work, because I have with me amazing comic book writer and creator David Booher. So welcome back to the show again.
Thank you, but I hate to correct you right out of the gate. My official title is clearly writer guy. It's clearly it's this new it's StreamYard, man. The program we're using, you could put in subtitles. So why not start the hijinks immediately? Thank you so much for having me. I am here to talk about comics.
Yeah.
Comics.
You have an interesting book out right now that I want to get into. And obviously, I know Canto stuff's going on with that, but we might talk a little bit about that at the back end, because I think what you have currently going on in the comic realm is super interesting with the feeding. And so it's on Zoop right now. I know a lot less about Zoop than other platforms, so I will say that openly. But what is the basic premise of the feeding? Because it's very interesting and hopefully spoiler free. Because the punchline comic is really good.
Yeah, because it's a 32-page one-shot story. So that we wanted to come out. It's me and the artist on it and co-creators Drew Zucker, and we both co-created Canto, and Canto's colorist Vittorio Estone and Canto's letterer and world design all came back for the feeding. So it's decidedly more adult story. It's a horror story that kind of is a throwback to EC comics from the 50s, Tales from the Crypt, Creep Show, Twilight Zone. We've seen references to Richard Matheson and Edgar Allan Poe, and just like, that creepy atmospheric sort of gothic horror that we wanted to channel. So it's set in the present day, and it's about this guy, Nolan Ward, who is an investment banker, a day trader. He's a womanizer, a casual drug user, drinker, partier. He's kind of just doesn't seem like a really great guy, but you find out he does all of these things because all of his life he's been haunted by a painting called The Feeding, and this painting eats people. And it's shown back when we join him, it's shown back up in his life, and now he's got it, and it's hungry. And now he's got to figure out how to deal with this painting, this carnivorous painting. So you can sort of feel already the like EC Comics vibes to it. And again, it's a one shot. We are in the midst of the Zoop campaign. Zoop is like Kickstarter, except it's really focused a lot more on pre-orders. So right now on Zoop, if you back the campaign, you can pre-order the A cover, which looks a lot like this. I actually don't have copies. We haven't printed it yet. It looks a lot like this. That's going to be capped. There you go. It's going to be capped at 500. Then we have a foil cover that's capped at 150. And then we have a black and white full issue. The full issue is entirely done in black and white to showcase Drew's art. And that's limited to 100. And all of them are going to bear the Zoop logo. So when the campaign is over, those covers, those variants will all be retired and they'll never be printed again. So I fully believe that this is only the beginning of the life of the story of the feeding. And it's an opportunity for folks to come onto Zoop to pre-order their copies of the Zoop variants before we take the next step in the feeding journey, whatever that step might be. If it's wider distribution and we put a new cover on it, we make it sort of a mass market type thing.
So we're going to talk about that because, again, I am less familiar with Zoop. I know Kickstarter, I know Indiegogo, and that's about it. But my understanding of Zoop is that it's definitely more curated. And I hate to use the word gatekeeping, but I use the word selective. I think selective is a much better word than gatekeeping, where they definitely vet projects, from my understanding, versus just allowing anybody on. And there's a whole debate on that, but I kind of like sometimes that's useful. But anyway, I want to talk about the book, because what is this like? Because at this stage in comics, I view this as a psychological horror type book. And it's very different than Canto. I mean, Canto is a little bit adult, but I don't view it as adult like this.
No, not at all, not at all. We just, I'm interested in doing stories that I love. So I've done Canto, which is an all ages fairy tale fantasy, done Killer Queens, which is a more adult comedy, LGBTQ forward sort of space sci-fi romp. I did Rain with Image based on Joe Hill's great short story, and that's like emotional post-apocalyptic horror. I did Specs with Boom, which is like a 1980s sort of throwback supernatural spooky relationship horror book. So it's just really doing the stories that I love to do, like the ones that speak to me. And this feeding came about because Drew actually had a nightmare about a painting that was horrific, and the details stuck with him so much that when he woke up he just was like scrambling to get all the details down. And he sent it to me, and it was this big story, and we were kind of talking about doing a one shot. And so I took that core idea of it, that painting that's sort of been around and sort of haunting somebody, and really cut it to, like, really streamlined it. So 32 pages, and you read it, so there's literally no space wasted here. It's a nice beginning, middle, and end, I think, but there's no, like, it's lean and mean, and you get there.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that, in which I'm being spoiler free because there's a lot of stuff in there where the punchline, I mean, it's kind of like a joke, right? In which that, not the book, but you know how you could ruin a whole comedy special if you spoil.
Oh yeah, you read the punchline. Yeah, the twist at the end. It's like you start out feeling one way.
Very good. It's very good, but what is? I mean, I guess but I want to tell that for one more second. But what is this like? Because obviously, right now, horror just in general, I pick up a lot of horror books, and I'm like, well, this is kind of lame. I know where we're going, and you don't terrify me. But then we're now in an era where you have people like Doug Wagner who did Plastic, and he's done a bunch of stuff, and I think Plush, and you have stuff where it's psychological. And we're in an era where I think people are craving that, and they're desiring that because they're sick of superheroes. They're sick of mainstream, and they're sick of, great, we're going to do, shoot, what The Exorcist, like the 20th one of that one came out. And I think people are getting sick and tired of just straight horror, and they want something more like Shutter Island. And so what is that make? Because you're delivering, and I think you're hitting on a niche really that people want to read now.
Well, I mean, I'm sort of falling that bucket. I think there's been as we go along, we're accumulating stories. We're accumulating more comics come out, more movies come out, more TV shows come out. And so it's that you have to do something that feels, I hate to say fresh because it sounds so cliche to even say fresh, but how ironic, right? So you have to do something. I go back to the Barbie movie, and I love the Barbie movie so much for what it did for movie making. It was so self-aware. And now that's sort of my benchmark for everything. You know what you're doing, you recognize it, and you embrace that. And for the feeding, I mean, we're not self-referential or anything like that, but we recognize that we wanted to tell this psychological horror story, and that's how you build it up to the end. And then the end, after that twist, I want folks to leave and be like, I don't know how I feel. You know what I mean? I don't know how I feel about this. I don't want to spoil anything, but did this happen the way that, do we have a reliable narrator? What's going, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this. So, and I agree. I mean, I enjoyed the Barbie movie. I enjoyed it for a different reason, where I took it a little bit different of self-awareness. I took it just as a burst of joyful, colorful energy.
Of course.
I mean, I took it a very different way than most people did, where we're like coming out of COVID, everything's miserable, and you go and see that movie, and it's just like pastel blues and pinks.
It's joy. It's a joyous celebration of movies and childhood and all of, toys and all that stuff.
It was very enjoyable. I took it a very different way than other people took it. I'm like, this is like just like super like new school hi-fi colors, like high flying colors stuff. But anyway, it's very different than the feeding. Very different. Very different.
Right.
But let's actually talk a little bit about this, because what we have in this, and not to, I'm purposely avoiding as much spoilers as I can. It is very dark, and we have a semi unlikable character, but also I think, everybody can relate to this character because he's kind of a dick, for lack of a better word.
Yeah,
Um,
he is. He is kind of a dick, but you start getting his backstory. And I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and one of the things a lot of the hosts, the good hosts, talk about when they talk about serial killers, and they talk about people who, as adults, are kind of monstrous and unlikable and kind of terrible people. And a lot of folks have had trauma in their past and in their childhood, and they talk about how you can feel bad for the kid but not for the adult who's making their own choices. And that really sticks with me. So you can feel sympathy for a child who's gone through something terrible, but then also not feel sympathy for the monstrous adult that they have grown into. So that was something that I definitely channeled here. Again, trying to avoid as many spoilers as possible, but really creating that dichotomy. So in your mind, you're like, this is terrible what's happened, but also these choices were also being made that are also pretty terrible.
and then to even go further into this, obviously a woman enters his life, and she's very interesting, and that raises questions because that obviously is part of the plot twist. I'm not going to explain what happens. I don't think I ruined too much, but she plays a very pivotal role because it's a very, very small cast as it is in this book. What is there, like 6 people in this entire book in reality? I mean,
Well, there's Nolan, and then the woman you're talking about. Those are the two mains, and then there's a couple that we meet at the beginning that we don't really see again. Maybe one, and then there's there's flashbacks in the story. So there's somebody from the flashbacks that we see, but really it's Lena Mean, man. You get with 32 pages, you don't have a lot of time to like dwell and do these beautiful double page spreads and all this stuff. You literally have to you got to get in there, you got to do your job, and you got to get out.
Yeah, what is that like? Because so I used to do a lot of writing, and I used to break down anime shows and comics, and I used to do the good, the bad, the verdict. And the goal was 900 words or less to break something down. I don't think people realize that 900 words is not a lot. It's not a lot. And I had a professor when I was studying abroad down in Washington, D.C., and what he basically said is that you're going to be writing for somebody in Congress. And so you have to write your thing, and you have 1,000 words or less. So this was the first time I've ever had an assignment where you legitly have to count your words. And so what
Yeah.
eventually figured out is that you have to make your point, and you have to write your points in bullet points, because if you're writing for somebody in Congress, a representative, they're in 15 meetings and they don't have time to be briefed. And so what my professor was trying to explain is that writing short and getting to the point is so difficult. I never spent more time working on an assignment, legitimately producing no words, than producing more words in less time. It's the weirdest
Right.
thing. So what is that like? Because there is an art to writing short. And I think it's a problem with comics where people don't know how to write a 2-part story. Issue
Yeah.
1 and issue 2, and then they're done. Like, I don't know how many projects you backed on crowdfunders, but I backed a book and I got it. The character is bad. I didn't need 44 pages of her being bad. We could have done it in 6.
Well, that's so funny that you say that because Nolan isn't a good guy, and all the things that I explained to you, we learn in 2 pages basically. So you learn, so you see, so the opening. This is so deliberate. These are all choices. I want everybody to know that these were all storytelling choices that we made to tell to fully flesh out this character in as few pages as possible. So you have the opening conversation where the button on that conversation is like, holy crap, this guy's terrible. And then you turn the page and you're like, he's a day trader, he's a drinker, a casual drug user, womanizer. You see this, and then you turn the page again and you realize you start feeling a little sympathetic for him because there's something else going on beneath all those things. Those things are symptoms, not causes of what's going on in his life. So it was a very deliberate 3-page approach. And then any story, no matter how long or how short it is, if you want to do 50 issues, if you want to do 1 issue, 2 issues, 6 issues, it's all about beginning, middle, and ends, no matter how short. I mean, if you want to do a 1-pager, it's got to have a beginning, middle, and end. You know, there can be small moments, small beats because you have no space. But in this story, you know, we set out to set him up in the beginning as to who he is, and the midpoint is you find out, oh, this painting. You find out the information about this painting, and then the end of it is the twist that we're talking about. So every story, no matter what format you're working in, if you have a beginning, middle, and ends, and hopefully the end is kind of surprising and satisfying, then you can utilize the space that you have for it.
Yeah, well, I think unfortunately, and this is a massive debate going on in comics, is that, and I put up something on my, status, is that people are starving for quality content. And right
It's
now,
true. I think comics have flatlined, honestly. Not flatlined in the sense that they're dead. The better word is plateaued. They have plateaued. And so
I've,
we
I've
need the
said
next.
I've said this about art, and I've said this about writing, where I hate to say this, but I back a lot of Kickstarters. I pick up a lot of comics to read, and I'm fortunate because I get to interview a lot of people, and I get preview copies, and I'm like, this book is average, and I think there's nothing wrong with having an average book. And look, if you write 100 comics a year, some of them are going to miss just statistically, because if you take 100 shots in life and you're shooting a basketball, you're going to miss some of those shots, even if you're the best in the world.
That's
Um,
right.
but but even still, I think there's been a lack of understanding storytelling. I think there's been a lack of wow factor. And I also think people have become complacent. And I think even artists to some degree have become complacent. And I think that they need to be shooken up a little bit. And, you need to be saying, hey, this is not good. It's like,
Yeah, and it's not even that. It's not. I mean, it's not like it's
you
bad
could do better.
quality.
Let's,
It's
let's be positive.
average. It's average. It's not going to push the conversation, the storytelling conversation forward. Um, and I think that's just again the symptom of there's so much content out there that folks are just like publishers need books. I mean, that's it's capitalism, so they need books, and so they're going to put out the books that are competent, stories that are competent that people will buy, especially the big two. They'll just, who, like, it's just some sort of take, some sort of idea, and then they do it, and it's like nobody thinks about it again in 6 months, but they've sold all their copies, and so they just move on to the next thing.
Did you also feel that in indie that there is a game going on where variant covers are a really big thing? Obviously, I run a business that sells a lot of this. And I understand I'm part of the problem, and I'm more than happy to admit it. But but a
But
lot
you're
of
not making variant covers, you're selling them, correct?
that is true. So far, I will eventually make a comic. I will
Sure,
eventually, but
but
right now,
you're not adding to the stack of variant covers. I mean, they're like trading. I mean, comics. I've said this before. It's like they're like trading cards now. There's one comic in particular I can think of that I won't say out loud, but it's just a single issue, and it's got so many covers constantly coming out that they become trading cards. Like nobody really opens the comic. They
do
just get
they
the.
have a trading card variant by any chance?
I mean, I'm sure they do, and that's a cool thing. But though, at the end of the day, the what rules is story, and when you start straying into, oh, I just want to buy this, and it's okay to just want to buy it for the cover, right? But hopefully, you've also bought the mass market cover and you've read it and you know that it's a good story, or you enjoy it. Otherwise, it becomes like Pokemon.
Look, I'm guilty of this as a collector where there's certain things that I haven't opened up, but I've read it digitally. So, so,
Oh,
so
that's fine. You've read it. That's all that you need to do is just like there's so many people out there who just collect variant covers and have never once read what's inside.
because I understand that I'm part of the problem. I understand that I'm encouraging the behavior. So that's why I openly admit
I,
that if I stop buying it and everybody else stop buying it and we all start selling it on eBay, this might sort of go away or it might be lessened. I'm not saying it would be, but potentially. So I am more than happy to admit that I might be part of the
I
problem.
don't. You are not part of the problem by selling these covers. If there's any problem, it's on the flip side of it, which is folks who are just like, this is the 50th variant of this issue, and I don't know. I mean, I don't. It's all a rich tapestry of an
I
ecosystem
mean,
that
I mean,
it comes and goes, and
the way I view it is slightly different. Where I also recognize on Kickstarter that people need to have those variants because they won't fund their book without those variants, and so they're trying to balance. No. I'm being very honest about it.
oh
Where
no, I was laughing at Kai. I'm looking at the chat, and
oh, oh,
Kyle Willis is in there. He said 50 variants. Is that enough? No, we need 100. We need 100. And of course, I say all this, and then I'm like, go to Zoop, and we've got the Zoop exclusives, so you can have those. But it's intended for you to read the book and then put that in your PC.
you don't have 50. You have like 3 or 4 at the most. I
Yeah,
think.
so there's four because there was a New York Comic Con variant. So there's going to be four total, and that's it.
But I look. I think 4 to 6 on a Kickstarter is actually a perfect number as far as variants, especially because you're going on Kickstarter. When I think DC has the ability to do 6 to 8, and that you get to choose as a comic shop, I think it then starts even getting out of hand. And then when you get like Action 1,000, and that has legitly 200 variants, it's a little excessive. A
It's
little.
crazy.
If they had
Dude,
180,
there was like probably 500 variant covers at New York Comic Con. All of, creators, retailers, publishers. No joke, I bet it was 500 different ones that you could go around and buy that were New York Comic Con exclusives. And that becomes like a scavenger hunt at that point. I mean, you get a badge if you get all 500 variants of everything.
that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, I
It's all
I
anecdotal. I don't know if there was 500, but
it's
I
up there.
know that there was TMNT had 100 on its own.
Who?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Ah,
And of
I
course
didn't hear
they
the
sold
name.
like crazy. Yeah, they sold like crazy. So the market is not collapsing despite what other folks are saying.
I have my own theories on it where I think certain things sell better than others. And I have
Mm.
no problem admitting that just because the company sells it to you and then what is its resale value is a whole different discussion. But I digress. But I do want to swing back into your book a little bit
Yeah.
because I do want to talk about the thing where your book has questions in it. And one of the things is that are we getting an accurate depiction of what really went down? Because there is some stuff that happens and there's some ambiguity about things that potentially happened. Also, are these characters being genuine in their actions? Is this really happening? Is this a figment of the imagination? And so what is that like? Because that's also very complicated, both in doing that type of story and connecting with it, and then secondly also at hitting, because sometimes people don't want, you know, the saying, this could have gone either way. Did this really happen? Or
Well, right. But I think if you do it
I'm being
well,
vague for a reason.
yeah. But I think if you do it well, the audience will come with you. And then even at the end, if you have questions, it's kind of those that's like satisfying question marks. You're like, ooh, there might be more layers to this than even I realized when I first was reading through it. And you might go back and read it again and go, wow, maybe this didn't quite happen the way that everybody is
Because
claiming it happened. Maybe it's a whole different thing that we just don't
that's
like.
what's
We
interesting.
it's an unreliable narrator, right? We
It's
don't.
yeah, so it's interesting because you read the whole book and you're 75% through, and then you get to the twist at the end and the punchline at the end of the book, as I like to call it, and then that shifts the whole book of what you just read into a different gear, and you're like, wait a second, what just happened? Because
Is
it
he who we thought he was? Is he different? Is this something that was just fabricated, or is this this? I mean, we just saw what went down, so it sure felt real, right? So
so because and there's even weirder stuff that happens in there, and then you're like,
mhm.
wait a second, what's going on here? And then there's like little hints and clues, and it's really interesting because now you have a lot of questions, and then I have saying, is everything in this book even legit? Because that was my end question, is that wait a second, we have a very straightforward position, and then bam, we kind of shift a little bit, and we're now in a different territory completely. But
Yeah.
it's a one shot, and that's what's crazy, is that like it kind of like mind fucks with you a little bit.
Well, I hope it was gentle. I hope it was gentle. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know what to how I don't know how to describe it other than we just had a very strong sense of what the story was. Even all those ambiguities and everything, it just felt very natural to put it in there to raise these questions by the end. It just, he wanted something psychological and visually. I mean, Drew just crushed it on the art. So visually, it's really unsettling and fantastic. So
So let me ask you a question, because I had Sean Chen on last night, and he's doing, I think, Evermind on Kickstarter right now. And kind of what we were talking about is that he feels that he could take somewhat more risks because he's not at a publisher, and that, it's being crowdfunded. And do you feel that you also feel that a little bit with this book, where you brought it to Zoop and that you're crowdfunding it? Therefore, you don't have to worry, because I don't know if you worry about this, but whenever you bring a book to a publisher, you kind of have to worry about, hey, I want to make sure that the publisher can sell this book, that they're taken care of. Even though everybody's a big boy in comics, you still want to make
of
sure that you're doing good business practices and that you're not
course.
producing a bad book for a publisher and leaving them holding the bag if it can be avoided. Sometimes things just don't work. But when you are in that realm, obviously it's the same thing. If I take on, something in my store, I would hope that the people I buy from say, hey, I want my book to do well in your store.
Of
I
course. Yeah, no.
so
It's so I can describe to you sort of the choices that we made and this sort of the strategy that we're taking with this one shot, the feeding. Um, but also you can't I can't from my perspective and my creation, I can't think about um, is this something that the publisher is going to want beyond a very surface level, which is if I want it to be all ages, I know I can't put in swears or really graphic violence or sex or anything like that. So beyond that, it's like I can't be thinking about, oh, is this going to sell? Because then I'll get in my own head. Is a publisher going to want this? I'll get in my own head and I'll hold back and it's going to be obvious. And that's when the publisher doesn't want it. I think the publishers really respond to stories and projects that feel very whether or not they're risky, they just feel very, very genuine, right? Very authentic to the storytellers. So with this one shot, I don't see it as risky. This is the story that we wanted to tell, and we've always thought all along that we wanted to do this. We've been talking with Zoop, the heads of Zoop, for years about doing a project on Zoop, and this turns out this one shot was a great opportunity for us to go onto the platform. So we didn't bring it to publishers. We didn't even go down that road because the first stage of life for the feeding is Zoop. Is this going to be crowdfunding? And the next stage in the Feeding's life will hopefully be a wide release with a different cover into comic shops through a publisher. And I personally feel very, very confident that we're going to be able to find a partner on it, because I think it's just, you know, take it with a grain of salt since I wrote it, but I do think it is a very well put together story that I think people are going to like, and they're going to buy it off the shelf. So I don't
Do you
feel
also
like
feel that it also might be an easier sell to some degree too, because it's a one shot as it sits right now? Because I'll be yeah, what was that?
I was just gonna say I've heard both sides. I've heard people say one shots don't sell at all, and I've heard other people say one shots do great because it's just a one and done. I think when you're talking about horror, especially this like EC throwback horror, if we release it in October, for example, and just advertise it for spooky season, I don't I feel like folks are gonna pull that right off the shelf and just want to, want to have that spooky 15 minutes or whatever it takes to read it.
Because I could tell you where I'm at right now with comics is that I love 4-part series. I love
Mhm.
4-part series
So
because
do publishers.
it's an easy commitment. It's 4 months. You're not going to bankrupt me. There's a middle, there's a beginning. I'm not bankrupt, and I know in 4 months I'm going to have pretty decent content, and I can invest, but I don't have to invest too much, and my bank account doesn't get hit. When you're doing a 15-part series, after a while, I'm like, we're still on this. Like, I understand you have story to tell, but like 15 issues, 20 issues, 90 issues, like after a while, I'm like, guys, like I'm kind of getting done with this and I want to move on to something else. But I'm like now 70 issues in, and now you got me and I'm screwed. So like
70. Yeah, yeah. That's definitely the word on the street from publishers is they're all pushing toward 4 issue story arcs, because the sales on issues 5 and 6 really just kind of go off a cliff, because people just then wait for the collection. And that doesn't mean you can't do your 12 or 18 or 24 or 32 issue magnum opus, right? It's just that you divide them into 4 issues and probably restart. Do a subtitle, do the first 4 and subtitle it, and do the next 4, restarting with 1 and do it as the sequel. It's like seasons of television, right? You do season 1, episode 1, then you do season 2, episode 1. And I think that's what we are all as readers used to now. So you can tell your 12 issue Lord of the Rings, but just do it in 4 issue chunks.
yeah, no. I think Gun Honey does a good job of that. I really do. And I really appreciate Gun Honey because I know it's 4 issues. They take a break. They do another 4. They take a break and then another 4. And it's easy because guess what? It doesn't destroy me. And I know that, hey, I'm buying it now. And I understand the cycle really, really well.
Sure.
And it just commutes in my head for whatever
Yeah.
reason. It's the same thing where I love 12 episode seasons of anime. I don't mind spending 10 years with a show, but I would rather do it in 12 episode chunks
Of
because it's
course.
just easier for me. It's short. I know it's not a huge time commitment versus doing 50 episodes every year or 50 episodes and then we wait 3 years and then we do another 50. Like, no, thank you. It's
Right.
daunting, but I digress. Again. There's a reason why we can't talk about all this stuff. This would be so much easier if we waited 6 months and everybody read it, because then we could really.
Yeah. No, you got to back the Zoom campaign. You got to back the Zoom campaign. Get us. We are in the midst. We are in the middle, the dreaded middle of the campaign.
I do want to talk about though coming onto Zoop because again,
Oh, sure.
I'm probably going to back this because now I actually really enjoyed it. So I was privileged,
Oh,
and
thank
a
you.
few other people have been privileged to get to read it. I don't know how many people have fully got to read the whole thing yet, but I enjoyed reading it. I'm excited for it. It's also not that expensive. It's $12, I think, for just a
For the
physical
A
copy,
cover. Yeah,
which
and we've got some stretch goals, and since it's Drew and I on Canto, a lot of our stretch goals, a lot of our add-ons and stretch goals are Canto related. So I think we're sitting at about a little over 6,000 right now, and our big stretch goal is at 10. We still have about a little less than 3 weeks to go, maybe 2 weeks now. in our $10,000 stretch goal, if we can get to it, is that every backer will get the San Diego Comic-Con Kanto Ash Can that previews the new Kanto that's coming out in 2024. They're all serialized, so they got a little number, and they're limited to 500, and they're going to be double signed. And so if we can get over that 10,000 mark, everybody's going to get one of those for free, which is really exciting because we're just announcing. We are literally in the midst of announcing Kanto's the second phase of Kanto with a brand new publisher.
So I want to table the Kanto stuff for 1 second, but what is it like to come onto Zoop? Because obviously Zoop is a very different platform than Kickstarter. It's similar in certain regards, very different in others. I think you alluded that it's sort of pre-order ask. I think also Zoop is almost all comics, or 99.
I think it is all comics.
So
Yeah,
that's
and Zoop,
a very different experience as well, where
yeah,
Kickstarter has other things. Indiegogo has other things. I don't know what Crowdfunder has, but obviously when you're only around comics that are all, I guess, vetted, analyzed, there's some good books up there that are pretty protected, I guess. And so what is that like? Because it's serving a niche, and being around only comics means you're only going to get comic fans. I don't know if that
yeah.
makes
So I mean, on the one hand, it certainly doesn't have the name recognition of Kickstarter, but where Drew and I are right now, we're in the midst of producing a lot more Kanto. He's got other projects. I've got other projects. Going to Zoop, it's everything other than producing the actual content and telling them basically, here's what the add-ons are, and these, just basically directing. Zoop literally took care of everything. They took care of setting it up. They're going to take care of printing. They're going to take care of fulfillment. It's like, we kicked it off, and other than promoting it in our socials, Zoop really takes care of everything. Whereas in Kickstarter, it is all on you. They literally only provide the platform, and you have to do everything else. And we didn't have the bandwidth to do that. So whatever we might have given up in exposure for Kickstarter, we gained in assistance in actually making this happen. Because I've never done crowdfunding. Drew did it once on Kickstarter for The House, a book he did with Philip Seavey a few years ago that's now published by Dark Horse. It was such a heavy lift for him that we just don't have the time to do that. So Zoop helps immensely in making sure that this is something that we can do. I don't think we could have done it on Kickstarter. It might have been more successful than it is on Zoop, but at what cost, Andrew? At what cost?
I ran a Kickstarter. The thing was not fun for me, and I got a lot of backlash for it. And but I'm still standing. I'm still standing is all I'm going to say. But I get it, in which that a lot of people have issues on Kickstarter. I mean, you must have backed at least one or two Kickstarters, right? At some point, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I just backed one yesterday that to help put it was Sean Daly's Kickstarter for Samurai Grandpa, the sequel. And I love Samurai Grandpa, and he was so close to his goal. And it was like, I had just noticed it. I hadn't heard about it, and he had 3 hours left. He was like just hundreds of dollars away from his goal. And I'm like, gotta do it. I gotta do it. You're so close. I gotta do it. So yeah, I've backed him.
So because you understand that a lot of creators also don't have the bandwidth. A lot of people have borrowed from the cookie jar. A lot of people are really bad with money on Kickstarter. I mean,
and I'll just add too that so this one shot where the art and the lettering and the coloring, everything was done before we launched. So none of the money that we're raising on Zoop has to go toward creative. It's already been created. It's already been paid for. It already exists in the world. So I think that is a great benefit. Launching a crowdfunding is when it's finished. It was a one shot. We were able to put it together. We printed a New York Comic-Con variant. It's all done. So really, it is a purely pre-order campaign for folks to pre-order this before we go to print.
Because you understand. I mean, for those who don't know, fulfillment sucks extensively. and I didn't. I mean, my thing was all digital for the most part. 95% of it was digital, which was nice, but it's difficult, this stuff. And so obviously having Zoop helping you do it and doing fulfillment and doing
Oh, and the fulfillment, yeah, on the back end of it. I think that's where a lot of the folks who do Kickstarter and get into real trouble. One, the book isn't finished because they have to raise the funds to finish it. And two, the fulfillment where you get 500 backers and people don't understand what it's like to fulfill 500 orders. And it's just a layer of hell that you just never want to visit. I promise you. As somebody who does Whatnot a lot, and I look at my stream and I get, I've gotten 20 orders. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, here goes my life for the next 3 days. It's not, I'm not exaggerating, but you know what it means.
I know exactly. I know exactly. I am the person who knows exactly what that looks like. I have like 40 orders I have to go out this weekend. It's not fun.
It's just, you have to order like, for Whatnot, I have a stack of 500 unfolded Gemini's mailers sitting in my storage room. Just this huge stack of mailers, and I just look at it and I'm just like, someday I'm gonna have to send all of those in the mail. Why?
I have a lot of Geminis, and then I've gotten creative. I've had to make makeshift Geminis. Those are fun.
Oh my God.
But I've also had the issue where somebody orders $15 and you can't put that in a Gemini. And so I have all these boxes from like all these like mystery things. So you put that in and then you get a post office box. And oh my God, those are the best. When somebody orders like 20 pounds from you, you can just put them in a box. Oh, it's so much better.
You want to hear a hack? You want to hear a hack for 20 comics? Do you use US Postal Service?
Oh, yeah, of course.
You know, the priority mail boxes, right, that are free?
Oh, yeah.
You can fit 3 Geminis into a priority mailbox.
So what I did instead is that I have all these Zenescope Zen boxes. So they hold like $15. So
right.
I put
it's like the ones with the lids, right?
Yes, exactly.
So and then of course you send it, and the people who are getting it are like, "Ooh, this is extra Zenescope swag. That's cool. You got it. You know what you're doing."
But people really like those boxes too. Those boxes go for like $20 on eBay. So now somebody's getting really clean.
That's what I mean.
And
it's easy for you to ship, and they're like, "Oh, I got something extra. That's cool."
And then you put it in one of those priority things, and oh, it's absolutely wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful, and oh, it's the best. So when people
10 out of 10, no notes.
Oh my gosh, it's the best. But I digress. But it's fascinating. I think it's great. So I mean, I love the post office. I practically live there. It's terrible.
You're like, hey, Andrew.
It's absolutely wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful, and they know me by name, which is not a good thing. It's not a good thing, but I like my business way too much. But yeah, so and then I do want to touch a little bit on Canto. Obviously, I have some cool Canto stuff that I can show.
I'm going to preempt you right now. Boom. Twinsies. Except you got your nice yellow label with 2 signatures. I just have this crummy blue label.
Hey, I paid for this. It was expensive.
Paid. I paid for this one too. I didn't send this in from my PC. These came off the press, the printer, with all these spine freaking creases. So you have to press them, and you got to hope for the best. So I just bought mine on the aftermarket, but I also bought them like I also bought it in 2019.
I bought mine. So the story, and I think I told you this story, is my local comic shop used to be Oh Yeah Comics in Harrison.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
Drew was signing there, and so I'm speaking to Mark at Oh Yeah Comics. I don't think he's gonna mind me telling this story. And he's like, "Oh yeah, we're having this signing. We're all sold out of our Canto." So I'm now sitting in this restaurant that's like down the street, and I go on Midtown, and I'm like, you know what? I should go buy Canto 1. I just got a feeling here. I don't know anything about this. This book could be good. It could be bad. It's a risk. And then
It's garbage. Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it because I never heard about it before. But obviously, there's going to be a signing on Saturday, so I'm like, you know what? Let me go pick up one of these things. I order it. It was like $15 with shipping. It wasn't even that expensive. They still had it because nobody heard about the book. And then fast forward, the book sells out really quickly. All of a sudden, it's a big deal, and I'm like, oh snap! So, and then this is how everything happened. And then obviously, I sent that book in when you were signing with CBCS. You and Drew were signing them.
Wow.
There you go. And then I got mine pressed. And I hope for the best. And I said, look, if it comes back as a 9.4, I'll be thrilled. Because
Right.
and it
So
sounds weird
hard.
when you say that, but when I opened it up and it's a 9.8, I'm like, oh snap. Like,
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you got it and you got the 9.8. We have I think there's so much. We've been doing Kanto for 4 years, and there's so much more to come. So I feel like we're just in phase one of Kanto. So I'm glad that you have that. Hold that in your PC till the movie comes out, and then sell it for quadruple.
maybe. I mean, it might be in my PC for a while because it's just one of those things. There are personal books that I have that I know if I let go that they're going to be really, really hard to find again.
Sure.
And there are books that are one-offs that I have that I know for a fact that are impossible to find. And I have some of those, and I've gotten some very nice offers on them, and I've politely declined. Um,
Those offers will be there. You can enjoy them in your collection.
you know what is? I don't have a desire to sell it. Like I don't have a desire
Good.
to sell. Like I just sold some CGC books, and I had no problem selling them. But like, there's some books that I just don't have a desire to sell. Like my 601, I can't sell that one from Campbell. I love that book. And then I have the one that is with Black Cat, and I can't sell that one either. Like I love it. But then I have books like Full Day, Rocket Raccoon, J. Scott Campbell, Keith Griffin book, and
Right.
I was sad to see it go, but it was time to let it go. And then I ripped off the Band-Aid, and it was I'm okay with it, but like it's weird, right? But like this book, I love this book. Like I love it, and I love the fact that
I don't think there are that many signed 9.8s that exist. I just don't think there are. So
and then,
I,
and
I
then this one's great too, also. But this one is not as valuable.
oh, but that's so cool. You know, we only ever did 2 foils for Kanto. That was one foil, like foil treatment on the cover, and then the other foil we did was for the San Diego Ashcan. So on the regular print run of Kanto for the first 23 issues, there's only one foil, and that is the one. That is it. You have it. You have a 9.8, which is beautiful.
And I won that in a nice bid, and I paid way under what I should have paid for it.
We are in a valley right now as far as Kanto values go, which is, I will tell everybody that it's a great buying opportunity. I won't share any further details, but this is the time to hop on the bandwagon because it's rolling along, my friends.
And then there's some other stuff with Kanto that's out there that some people may or may not know. I know there's the trading cards. So those are cool, and I have a few of those, and those are pretty sweet.
There's trading cards. There's little Kanto statues. I have them right here. These are little blind box Kanto figures that we did. There's like 7 different finishes.
Yeah. You got to stop talking because I'm poor as it is.
Yeah, so
I can afford the trading cards. Those little blind box things.
they're only $20 a pop, man. That's what I bring to Whatnot. My Whatnot stream that I'm doing tomorrow is going to be just all those blind boxes. So I put them $20 a pop. People buy them, and then I open them, and we'll see which finish you get. Or you get the chase. So it's fun. You know, he's a great character for merch, and you know, it's just fun to be part of that.
Yeah, no. I'm very excited. I'm very excited for what's next. Obviously, I am very excited about my 9.8 CBCS Kanto book because it's expensive. I know exactly what this book is worth, and I'm so excited that I got it. And that's all I'm going to say. And then I got some other stuff with Kanto. I got some of those trading cards, and they're fun. I really like the Star Wars stuff that's been done in
Sure.
Kanto, just because that's just Star Wars, and I appreciate it. I appreciate all of it, and I have an idea why this stuff is valuable, obviously, but I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to get you or me in trouble. I'm in enough trouble
I
as
appreciate that.
shit. I still want our friendship because
Yeah, man, you're hanging by a thread, so don't rock the boat here.
Oh, I'm not rocking the boat. I know when to stop. See, I'm an adult in the room.
I'm just teasing you.
So it's all right. It's all right. I don't want to push it either because I understand, and I don't want to push it because I want to capitalize first and foremost before everybody else. But anyway, I do want to back out of Kanto. I do want to back out of the feeding, and I am curious your opinion though, because a lot of stuff is going on in comics, and I'm curious how you view. Obviously, you were at New York Comic Con, and I'm curious how you view the health of the industry because I see a lot of people being successful, but I also see a lot of people struggling. And obviously, I've been in both camps where what sometimes doesn't work with in my business on one thing, the other thing does work. And I've shifted around my business in the last year. That has opened up a lot more opportunities. But I'm curious what you feel because obviously I'm in a very different space where I sell a lot of stuff. I haven't produced a book. I don't draw. I'm not, running a Kickstarter.
I mean, I've heard that a lot of retailers are really struggling right now to sell, Wednesday Warriors, and I think that partly the economy, which is weird because I don't think the economy is terrible. I just think people see high prices and they're afraid to spend money on extra stuff like comics. So I've heard that the retailers are struggling a little bit, but I think that goes back to also the sort of plateauing of the single issue comics storytelling right now. So nobody's really excited about what's going on, and retailers aren't able to, like comic shops aren't able to move copies. And from the creator side, yeah, I see folks struggling and talk to all kinds of people at Comic Con or New York, and they're just, I have pitches out here and here and here and here. So it just feels like everybody is sort of fighting to get their time with editors and get the space on the slate. Yeah, I just, I don't know. I don't know what to say about myself other than I'm very satisfied with what I've been able to do.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, because how much time did it take for you to get Kanto? Because and correct me if I'm wrong, but Kanto was kind of your big break.
I
And
agree. It was. So Drew and I have been working on Kanto since 2017, and it came out in 2019. We first connected in the fall of 2017. So that you're talking 6 years ago, right? And we were working on it, and we put together this great pitch. We did art on it. We both loved this story so much, and IDW ended up agreeing to do it in 2018 is when we signed that deal. So since that time, everybody thinks like you get a hit and that's it. And there are people who have that experience, but there's very rare. I didn't really get an opportunity to do anything outside of Kanto until 2021 was when Killer Queens came out, and it was again a creator-owned book that I had to set up myself. My first licensed book was Firefly with Boom, and it was an opportunity I got because an editor had moved from one publisher to Boom. And I think that was 2021. So it was like 2 years since Kanto was this quote unquote massive success that I even had anything going.
Asking this, right? Because in my business, I've been in business selling on eBay for 10 years. I am just now getting opportunities to buy wholesale. I'm just now getting opportunities
10
to
years.
meet people. This is 10 years, and people say, "Oh, you're doing okay." You got to realize that this is a 9-year journey to get to here. And even still, there have been more problems that have been solved in my business in the last 9 months than I have solved in the last 9 years before this. And it sounds weird.
You just have to you just have to stick with it. You just have to keep going. I know talked to some folks who are just sort of on the cusp of giving up being in comics, being writers, being artists, that sort of thing. And, I've been writing for 12, 15 years. I didn't publish my first thing until 2017. And in 2017, I was 38 years old. I had been a lawyer for 12 years at that point. No, 13 years at that point. And if I would have given up at any point, I would not be where I am today, which is a full-time writer who gets to watch cartoons while writing cartoon characters in funny books. So if that's not a dream come true, then honestly, I don't know what is.
Well. I hope to join you someday on that.
There you go.
I am not an attorney. I don't want to be. I made a conscious choice not to go to law school. I would have been miserable. I would have been miserable in my life. Nothing against the profession of law. It was just not for me. But I do want to be president. Because that sounds like a fun job. But
just having the time of your life.
Oh my gosh. Just I will have a lot of fun as president of the United States. I will have a lot of fun. I'm so excited for it. We're gonna make Anime Day in the White House. We're gonna have the first official Comic-Con in the White House. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, right. That would be amazing. Oh my God, the first WHCC, White House Comic-Con.
But I digress. You heard it here first. But I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. I know you got to get out of here in a second. So obviously I want to give you a chance to promote yourself. Where can people find you, bother you, hit you up? Look for Canto, Whatnot Stream, all that stuff.
Sure.
Zoop
stuff. Zoop. So if you can drop it in the link in the chat. Do you have the link? The Zoop link?
It's actually in already. It's in the banner for everybody.
Oh, amazing! Thank you. So you can find me on.
I'm a professional.
That's amazing. I love it. So you can find me on Instagram at David M. Booher. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at David Booher. Whatnot, I'm at David Booher. I do streams basically once a week. So you can hit me up there, bookmark those shows. Go to the Zoop campaign. We are currently in the midst of it. We still have a couple weeks left, so go ahead and back the feeding. What I have coming out right now, you can the collected issues of Dungeons and Dragons Saturday Morning Adventures with IDW, which is based on the cartoon from the 80s, is coming in on Saturday. Coming in on Saturday. It is coming in October. Killer Queens Volume 2 is currently coming out in single issues. We are up to issue number 3. That comes from Dark Horse. Then still more Firefly hardcovers are coming out from Boom. And keep on the lookout for news from Canto, which will be coming out today and tomorrow.
And then I'm just gonna keep saying what I gotta say. Is you need to support indie, and what that means is you have to back people's campaigns, whether they're on Zoop, Kickstarter, Crowdfunder, Indiegogo, Fund My Indie, or if they are mainstream or they're working for a smaller publisher. Obviously people have books all the time that are up on websites, and going to buy their books is super important. And also, if they're at a con or they have their own web store, they have a Whatnot stream, buying directly from them is so important right now, because even if it's not necessarily this project, or you're back in Rain, or you're back in Killer Queens or Canto, obviously anything that you buy from a creator indirectly supports their next project. So it's very important in that regard. And then following them on social media is also very important, because that's helpful. So this way you stay informed. And then as far as I'm concerned, obviously I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter/X, Pop Anime Comics on Instagram, Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, on YouTube. I am Pop Anime Comics, so you just can subscribe there. I got like 700 interviews, everybody. So please go watch all my content and make me feel special. I promise you will be entertained. I cannot promise you will get smarter Also, I have a lot of rare books up on my eBay store, and a lot of cool stuff is actually coming. I have a bunch of stuff coming in the next probably 6 weeks that is going to be very interesting, to say the least. But I will tell you one thing: this book will not be up there. It will not be up there. I can tell you that. But I have 50 of these for free, so that's something to keep in mind. And also, you should probably watch my social media, everybody, because I do have an announcement probably on Saturday that's going to be fun for everybody out there. But that's everything that I got. So go check it out. And before I go, I am Pop Anime Comics on eBay. So that's everything that I got officially, and I will give you the final word.
And he freezes. Thanks everybody for tuning in, Andrew. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. I love all of our deep dives into everything that is the comics industry. Appreciate you giving us some airtime for the feeding, and I hope that I can become yet another one of your 700 interviews going forward.
You mean the 1,400 in the next 3 years?
The 1,400, please. Can I be? All I want is 10%.
That could be
140 interviews with me.
That could be arranged.
One. I'll take one slot. You can have the other $13.99. That's fine.
That works for me. That works for me, everybody. And I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody. And that is a wrap.